Hello. Kalamai, I was upstairs with the governor. We normally have a leadership meeting with him every Wednesday, so it took a bit of my time. I would have been confident for our vice chair to begin the meeting, but I asked her just to wait for a couple of minutes so I could come down. Today we're going to be addressing, and welcome to the Hawaiian Affairs Committee. As we sit, I'd like to introduce Vice Chair Ryan from Kailua, Manalo. A little bit of Hawaii Kai, unless the lines change soon, we'll see. And Senator Kahele from Okokeawe, east side, right? East side. And I'm Brickwood Galutaria. We will be hearing SB 2854, which relates to a statewide island burial council, which consolidates the 5 island burial councils into a single statewide Island Burial Council as a means to address long-standing quorum issues. And I will confess to the audience that this was originated from a request that I had put to Director Ayla. As we made our way through, we came to learn that a lot of the burial council business wasn't being done due to cancellations of the meetings due to the lack of quorum, and I guess other reasons as well that we seek to find out today. So you know, with such a delicate matter as Iwi and our kupuna and our ancestors, we want to be diligent about how we go forward, and with a lot of respect, and that is the nature, and I would hope the spirit by which we will proceed in our deliberations here today. So with that in mind, let's begin our testimony. William Ayla, Jr., Department of Land and Natural Resources.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm not William Ayla.
I can see that.
Guy Kalukui, Deputy Director, Department of Land and Natural Resources. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair Ryan, Committee Member Kahele. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on Senate Bill 2854. You have our written testimony. The Department is in strong support of this measure. You indicated that the question that we're trying to address is one of quorum, and I don't think that's really the issue. I think the question we're trying to address is one of us as a department, because of the inability of island burial councils to meet for various reasons, not being able to protect iwi kupuna as well as we need to. And we have a situation that's somewhat out of our hands because we have very little, if anything, that we can do about people actually attending council meetings. So we propose legislation that we know would solve, we believe would solve this problem, which would be a statewide council with island representation. The council would be required by statute to move throughout the state to hold this meeting so that it wouldn't be dominated in one location, and would give the opportunity for communities to provide testimony in their mana'o on different burial issues. In addition, the department is soon to be completing our upgrade of our video conferencing capabilities, which would allow for remote testimony and mana'o to be shared from one island to another island. We recognize the importance of going face to face on these kinds of issues, but we also understand that there are some situations where that's not possible, so we want to be able to provide for some remote connection. So our position is in support of a single island burial council. We understand that there's other positions. What I'd also want to say is, at a bottom line, the status quo cannot be maintained. The memo that I provided the committee members a few minutes ago shows you the number of burial council minutes, or meetings, excuse me, that have been canceled over the last 2 years because of a lack of quorum. I think if you count them up, it's a total of 27, 10 on Hawaii Island, 10 on Maui and Lanai, 8 on Kauai, 2 on Oahu, which has a much better record, and Molokai has not been able to meet since at least April 2008. So whatever we do, we have to do something, and we support this measure as something that we can do that will solve this problem. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Mahalo nui loa. For the benefit of those testifying, I'd like to ask that Guy, you stand by, and then we'll take questions from the members when we. I have one question though to set the foundation for this. What would the breakdown be for an island burial council with representation from each island?
We'd be a minimum of 2 members. 2 members per island is what's proposed at this point in time.
And what would be the top? What would be the number?
And we would maintain the 2 members per island, maintaining the ratio between landowners and regional representatives.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mahalo. Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Please state your name for the record.
Aloha Biakako, aloha Chair and Vice Chair members. My name is Kyle Markel. I am Compliance Manager with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Office of Hawaiian Affairs submitted testimony with comments and concerns. This morning, the Beneficiary Advocacy Empowerment Committee of the Board of Trustees voted to oppose this SB 2854. Is expected to be brought before the full board tomorrow, and they will also oppose. While on its face it has intended good meaning, this type of vehicle is not a panacea for the issues impacting island burial councils. Since 1990, when the burial councils were established, you have a good solid at least 10 years to a decade of functioning operating councils with the existing law. And in 1996, when Chapter 13300 was promulgated, those administrative rules went into effect. And you also had monthly meetings of the councils. You had minutes produced, you had decision making. The quorum issue first surfaced around 2003 when there was an issue finding large landowners on the island of Molokai, and that was the one issue that surfaced. Since then, there's been a degradation of the administration of the councils, and it almost seems like, not, I wouldn't want to say intentional, but it's really difficult to see how the program has declined. The council members really didn't have any Attorney General representation for about 10 years. There was no AG present, only on a rare exception. Council members today are very concerned about making decisions on a spiritual context where you're dealing with the most sacred aspects of our culture. And if you're not prepared beforehand, you don't have the information given to you in a timely manner. You have questions about production of the minutes, what was said last time. You have threats of personal liability. You have a host of issues. I honestly may not attend a meeting at times if my now didn't feel right. This idea of having one council to go across the state, number one, you're reducing the number of meetings that are potentially held on an island. From the Hawaiian standpoint, you don't want to let EV cases sit for months and months while you're waiting for the circuit to come to your island. You don't want EV sitting on shelves. You don't want open trenches with tarp on it while people are waiting for a burial council decision. From a landowner's perspective, you don't want your project sitting while you're waiting for approval of your burial treatment plan because there was a defect and you got to wait another 2-3 months for the circuit to go again. Burial treatment is really about kuleana. And even on Mokokiawe, I remember a burial council member, Kupuna from Ka'u, who told another burial council member, Kupuna from Kohala, that we Ka'u people, our heart is still eha for what you did to kill Akuhawula, our beloved Ka'u chief, on the altar of Pu'ukohola. And the kuleana on one island is very sensitive. I can imagine when Mokokiawe comes to Manokalani Po and says, move those burials. This is a very serious matter as far as Hawaiians go as far as kuleana.
Kai, are you speaking for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, or are you speaking for?
I'm speaking for the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
Because you submitted testimony, and with all due respect to the testimony, I would like to, we can talk, I would like to ask you some questions when we're done, which will address exactly what you speak to.
Again, this testimony I am giving now was given to the Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment Committee,
Okay,
and they voted to oppose this bill.
okay, okay. And can you stick around for some questions later?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I just have one request. If you could resubmit your written testimony from OHA stationery with the signature on it. There's no signature on the testimony.
Yes, and we will be amending the testimony.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. So the official position of OHA is in opposition?
Yes, sir.
Okay, mahalo. Thank you. Okay, Jonathan Scheuer, Oahu Island Burial Council, in opposition. Edwin Miranda, Hawaii Island Burial Council, in opposition. Thomas Shirai, in opposition. Charles Flattery, in opposition. Sarah Collins, Society for Hawaiian Archaeology, in opposition. Malia Evans, in opposition. Puanani Rogers, Ho'okipa Network, in opposition. Ehu Cardwell, in opposition. Harry Fergustrom, Na Kupuna Moko Kiawe, in opposition. Cheryl Lovell Obitaki has submitted comments. We have quite a number of people who've signed in today. Was it today? Okay, so we have lead testimony, and for those of you who will be coming up, if you would submit testimony at the proper time, we'd appreciate it. Hina Le Moana, Wang Kalu, Oahu Island Burial Council.
Aloha mai kako,
Aloha.
mahale ko kako huian, mahale au ko e nā keneko, na ko o ko ho'oloi ana mai kia mau leo. I come before you today not only to bring to you the representation of the chair of this island's burial council, but we also stand united with Maui and Hawaii Island Burial Council. I have not made contact with the chair of Kauai Island Burial Council as we have not had schedules that would sync. However, I was informed that they would not be here present, but this voice comes to you to only reiterate what other testimonies have provided to you. Our roles and responsibility as far as the council goes must be culturally appropriate, and therefore, with due respect to the chair of the Department of Land and Natural Resources staff and others who have come together to put this before you, we must respectfully say to you that this is not the solution that we envision. We did express our desire to have input. Preferably it would have been before this came to you, but in light of that, we are still proceeding on with our own effort to meet. With the assistance of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, our meeting with the chairs and vice chairs is scheduled for later on this month. And we'd like to contribute what we feel may be a more positive and more palatable solution to this. And we will, at that time, be able to pose that to you. In my individual capacity as Moku representative for Kona Moku, Kona Oahu, the task of attending meetings, developer meetings, of being able to respond in the case of iwi kupuna that require somebody to come to the call, or to simply be able to be contacted by our constituency from each moku. We are the voices. If we are not going to be able to amplify what the community comes to us to say, then what truly is our purpose? So we know that we serve as a vehicle of empowerment for our community, especially when it comes to important issues concerning iwi kahiko, iwi kupuna. We humbly ask that you consider other options, and we stand in opposition to this bill. I did send an electronic letter of opposition on behalf of the Oahu Council, and I believe I had sent it to all of you week and a half prior. If you would like, I can resubmit testimony once more.
If you could do that, I'm not sure
Yes.
why it perhaps didn't reach us, but
Okay.
if you could,
No problem.
that'd be great. Okay, thank you.
Any questions from you?
Mahalo. Not right now.
Not yet.
Not right now, mahalo. Yeah. Hale aloha, ayao, hui malama.
Hello, no kako. Hale aloha, I'm volunteer executive director for Hui Malama na Kupuno Hawaiʻi, and I'm appearing today in that capacity. While I do a lot of other things, I'm not here on behalf of the state of Hawaii or anybody else. I appreciate the comments that Dr. Kalahukui made, that this is a good faith effort by DLNR to try to address a serious problem. I was consulted early on in this discussion. I shared concerns about the approach, and I still have those same concerns, and as a result oppose this approach. But I certainly don't oppose the effort to try and fix this, which should be appreciated on DLNR's part. But I oppose the legislation because it unfairly characterizes this problem. Placing the entire burden on the lack of quorum is unfair, and Kai Markel in his testimony highlighted the other reasons why people don't show up. I was at a Hawaii Island Borough Council meeting once with an Attorney General. You know, on the one hand, you're happy that they actually showed up for a Borough Council meeting to advise the council, but told the council members that they would be facing personal liability if they took action in a particular case. I didn't agree with that, and our attorneys objected to it, but that had the chilling effect of making people not want to come to meetings now. So there's other reasons people aren't showing up. It's not that they're being irresponsible, or another reason for, that's not being cited here is SHPD got rid of its Borough Sites program. So the amount of administrative support necessary to conduct this program has been, decreased. And the result is you don't have as much follow-up with council members, which is contributing to this problem. And then, the third, what was the third thing? Sorry, I can't remember. But the point is that you cannot put all the blame on the council members not attending. AG support, when I was with the program for years, we never had AGs come. It was not until after I left, 6 years into the program, that, under Kai Markel as director, the Attorney General started sending deputies to the meetings. I mean, it's a state commission, just like any other. Mm-hmm. They are appointed, confirmed by the Senate, just like any other. But they don't have AG support. They have very little administrative support. Oh, okay, I remember the third reason. Third reason has to do with the integrity of the selection process. When I was director, we didn't have as many quorum problems because we had very hardcore, dedicated people who were going to come to these meetings, both on the Hawaiian community side and the landowner side. But then, as this process started continuing, and then you had appointments of people who had very little connection to communities, but they were politically connected. And one way you can oppose this situation is by not showing up. And so you started seeing this pattern happening. And so if we went back to following the regs that talk about what the requirements are for serving on the council, going to Hawaiian organizations, having them select people from their communities who they know bird dog issues like this. Some of them are sitting right behind me right now, but they don't sit on the councils. If that process was followed more closely, then the quality of candidates you have on the Borough councils would be higher than it was. So you put that all together, you have the problems that he pointed out, but to point just at the lack of quorum is unfair. Okay. If you have a single commission, all you're doing is exacerbating the problems you're facing now, but now on a grander scale, because if the Kauai Borough Council doesn't have a quorum, they can't address Kauai issues. If this commission doesn't have a quorum, nobody can. So I don't understand the logic in doing that. Let me just, I know I'm going on, but let me just finish with one last point. I think there's a larger problem going on here, and it's a question that's been debated since we started this process. I was one of the original authors of Act 306 in 1990. And that's how, the bill is a reflection of what we were thinking in 1990. We're certainly not thinking that now in 2012. we've progressed, hopefully. And so I certainly realize that there's a need for changes, and I appreciate what Chairman Ayla and Dr. Kalukui is trying to do. But one of the questions that was debated from day one, if any of you were involved back in 1990, is where to place this program. That was always the core issue. The choices were DLNR or OHA. And in 1990, people didn't want it placed in OHA. And for me, as one of the authors, my main concern was lack of enforcement. OHA doesn't have enforcement authority. So we were concerned that people who violated this law, we couldn't go after them if the program was placed under OHA. After all these years of experience, we realized that enforcement is the least of our worries. The bigger concern is proper administration, because that's how the state undermined the program. They got rid of my position, they got rid of the program. They just slowly deteriorated the ability to effectively manage these councils. So here we are today. So 22 years later, even though I'm not involved, I'm certainly not the voice of this effort anymore. But my recommendation is that this legislature, this committee, set this legislation aside, study the broader historic preservation issues dealing with the Burial Council, and pose a question to the Hawaiian community and to the large landowner community whether or not the burial sites program should remain under DLNR, or whether or not it would be more appropriately administered by the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Now, having said that, I have no authority whatsoever by OHA to have spoken on their behalf. That's just my opinion, that we've gotten to the point where OHA, I think, is ready under its leadership, and they have been for some time now with their reorganization. I think the leadership is ready to take this, but more importantly, it's a Hawaiian kuleana that belongs under the purview of a Hawaiian agency. And if we're going to experience any problems, I'd rather be experienced in that forum where we can deal with it as Hawaiians. And that's just me in my personal capacity. I'm not representing OHA or anyone else. Thank you.
Halialoha, we're going to have to get testimony from you. If you could distill those thoughts down. You had some strong, those 3 points. Did you submit something? I'm sorry.
If it wasn't for Kalai's email, I wouldn't have known this was even happening.
Okay,
I was here on wall with something else.
Very good, very
so
good.
I came
and
here.
I understand you got to be.
But I have it written here. I can just.
Could you get it to Davis over there? Okay.
Sure.
I want, because Halealoha has to leave and catch a plane, I just had one question, but I just want to understand, you have cited 3 reasons why some of the commissioners are not attending the meetings. One is fear, intimidation. Second, credibility of selection of members, some of them question. And a matter of protest.
Matter of what?
Protest by some of the members. Because they're not, confident about the integrity of the.
They may not agree with who's on the board, so they're not going to show up.
My one question is, the big one of the largest landowners of Molokai is Kamehameha Schools. Now, I think Dr. Kukui mentioned earlier that the landowners of Molokai were not participating, or is that, or am I misunderstanding?
Well, to be more clear, we were short one. I think there's in the law there's a minimum requirement for landowners of ratio that has to be maintained between landowners and Island Burial Council members. One other suggested approach is to amend the ratio rather than take the radical move of consolidating them into one council. But for Molokai, they needed one more landowner to meet that ratio, and they couldn't find one.
Was Kamehameha participating?
I'm not sure.
The other question is, if they're
I know DHHL is going to.
If they're a foreign landowner, do they have the choice of not participating?
If they're a what?
A foreign landowner. If one of the large landowners on the island is a foreigner.
I think there are requirements in the regs on what criteria a landowner has to meet in order to qualify for this seat.
So DHHL was one of them on Molokai, and I know
was not participating.
Or was not participating.
Was not participating.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, if you could get the testimony. Sure. Okay.
I have a statement. I'm videotaping, so if it make it easier for everybody, I can hand you this, and that way you can get what they say on.
Well, I appreciate that too. If you could submit that, that'd be great.
That would save them the hassle of trying to remember what they said.
Well, I think he has a general idea of what he said. So, but we'll take that too. Michael Kumukauhali.
Aloha, my committee. Nice to see all of you. My name is Michael Kumukauhali, and I'm Kahu of the Royal Iwi of Waipo'uli. I'm here in testifying in opposition to this bill for several reasons. As mentioned from Molokai, the issue of the law with landowner participation was for due process for everyone who had a stake in standing for these issues, which is very important under the law of our Constitution. However, the law has to be adjusted because when we open under due process hearings, if everyone chooses not to participate, it doesn't stop the process because due process was given. You abrogate your right to come to the table, process continues. Same thing on Molokai. The fact that the landowners are given the opportunity for due process should not stop the process from continuing, because we don't do that for any of our committees, yet we do that for the landowners. How does that make any sense under the law? And this is the problem, is it doesn't. The fact that the landowners are given the opportunity to show and they abrogate their rights like all good citizens do, we move on. And they can't go to court saying, we weren't given that opportunity. The general public is given that opportunity every day when it's posted in the newspaper. So why do we treat landowners different under the Constitution of the United States? That has to be addressed. One. Number two, Pua Alaiu, in the last OIBC meeting, who is drafting the BLNR board version of this bill, said that this would cost $60,000 more than the current system that we have in place. Is that fair to the taxpayers who are paying and the deficit that is running in our state? Does that make any sense? Because they're going to have to fly in these representatives on the taxpayer dole. They have to house them per diem. That costs $60,000 more from a budget that is so tight and in a deficit era, it doesn't make any sense. So we know we can scratch off the ledger that this is saving us money. Now get this. When it comes to NHHPC, an advisory board of OHA that stands for Native Hawaiian Historic Preservation's Council, they have a secretary on a laptop notebook taking verbatim notes. SHPT administration says they cannot do that. They take shorthand. So what we get is revised hash of what someone is saying in their language, not the public. Does that make any sense when an arm of the state, OHA, has an advisory board that has someone on their notebook typing up verbatim minutes for a session for the public, yet SHPT has the old paper and pen and says, we can't do that. Does that make any sense? I don't think so. So what we're seeing here is a pattern. We see a really great pattern forming here of not wanting to address the fundamental support responsibility issues of the State Historic Preservation Division. One more good one. This one comes from Hawaii Revised Statutes that says all minutes must be approved within 1 month under the law. This last session, last year of OIBC, 10 months not approved. 10 months. That means the hotels that did a burial treatment plan under the law in February had to wait till December to make it legal, because what is approved in a meeting cannot be considered legal under the court system until you approve the minutes. So we had 8 minutes standing for almost 1 year violating the law that could have been sued. The state was never approved of. How do you allow that to happen? Oh, let's continue.
How much? How much are you going to continue?
Oh, just one more example. One more example. Okay, let's look into this beautiful situation of support. For over 2 years, they did not have a certified genealogist, a person who got their degree in library sciences. How do you justify something like that with the burial council? So you can see there's a greater issue of tula, fix up, get up, start up in this particular thing, and we're denying the rights under our Constitution, Article 12, Section 7, for us, we who are the kahus and keepers and are trying to protect the rights that are afforded to us in this great country. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Mike, you sure you get your testimony into us, okay? Mahalo. I'd like to welcome Senator Kidani to the committee. Is it Khalil Pike? Is this Khalil or is this, I cannot read.
That's me.
Khalil, is that you? I couldn't see you behind Kai. I'm sorry.
How are you?
I'm fine. Come up, please.
Seeing you in a different situation instead of on the morning show, yeah?
I
Doing your
missed the
program.
morning show.
Yeah. I'm Khalil Pike, and I'm here as a private citizen. And I did work for SHPT at one time, and I also did serve on the Burial Council, so I'm very familiar with the laws, the rules, and also what should have been done, wasn't done, and needs to be done. So my reasons are bullet reasons, so it won't take very long. Number one, this proposed bill just does not make sense. It just does not make sense. What is the statistical justification for the change? Not just the quorum, but a burial council's impact on a decision, and it has to be for burials. It cannot just be for a reports or inadvertence. It has to be an actual burial found by an archaeological inventory survey for it to impact the burial council for a decision. I'd like to know statistically how many of those particular projects were impacted by a lack of quorum, not just that they didn't meet. Are we saying 100? Are we saying 50? 25? 10? If we're only talking a small number, are you changing the law to accommodate a small number in actuality rather than, it's a perceived reality rather than the actual facts? I'd like to know that number. What is that number? Secondly, the voice of the people will not be heard. It would give more weight to the large landowner due to the lack of participation by the descendants. The descendants need to be there to voice their opinions. In our custom, it's face-to-face. You can always lie behind a camera, you can always lie, but you cannot lie face-to-face, not with eye-to-eye. So that's very important for our people. Third, the proposed makeup of the combined council would limit the number of regional representatives to 2 per island. And because I know that Guy said it was at least 2, but it's not more than 2. So that means we're talking 10. There's a big problem for me. I come from the Big Island. Geographically, it's big. All 7 other islands can fit into the Big Island. That's how big it is compared to the other islands. Now, you're only going to have 2 people for that island. And this is the misconception, and I've heard it tossed around today. Mokuokeawe is not for the whole island. Mokuokeawe is for half the island. It is for Hana, Kohala, Kona, and Kau. The other side is Mokuomi, which is Puna, Hilo, Hamakua. So for Mokuokeawe, we could fit maybe geographically Maui and Kauai in there. So we're talking about equal representation. Maui is going to get equal representation for half of our island. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me that you're going to have such a large geographical area, because it's not about population when it comes to the decisions of the burials. It is about history, about culture, about genealogical ties. So we cannot just assume because Oahu has the highest population, therefore they have more weight. That's not the issue. The issue is where most of the development happening and all of those other issues. And the Big Island, especially the Kona side, is having the majority of the development. So we are limiting that representation. Fourth, I'm not going to repeat the fourth because it's something that's already been said and I don't want to bother your time. However, I would like to mention that State Historic Preservation and DLNR did appropriate $187,000 to hire somebody to help fix SHPT. Now, that $187,000 may be good, well spent, but it was at the cost I'd like to know the answer to that is, where did that cost savings come from? The only thing I can think of is that it was personnel. We could have had 3 more live people in there to help with this situation at hand. I'd like to leave you with this. To change the law upon a future perception of need rather than fixing the need is counterproductive, when there are other more pressing concerns that could use everyone's attention. If I were to tell you I could solve the representation problem within 6 weeks, would you drop that bill? I did it.
Are you asking us?
That's the question I posed.
okay.
And the reason is because you spoke about Molokai has not met since April of 2008. Well, in the ending part of 2007, with the help of Mark Miranda from the governor's office and myself, we put the Molokai Burial Council back on record. Their first meeting was in February of 2008. So it can be done, and how it was done was just the old-fashioned way. Integrity and hard work. Cold calls, finding out who in the community, referencing, making calls, and accessing the community to get their input, who should serve on that council. It can be done.
Kamala Kalai.
Aloha mai. My name is Kamuela Andrea Kapuanani Ali'iokama Kalai, and I am here on behalf of my kupuna and my ohana. I'm here to submit public testimony in opposition to Bill SB 2854 relating to statewide Island Burial Council. And I have testimony that I can submit. I strongly oppose this bill. This bill is a bad idea on all levels, as it seeks to combine all of the Island Burial Councils into one statewide council. This costly bill will effectively delete and silence the voices of the family members and community from having a voice on their own island to address concerns about their iwi kupuna, the bones of our ancestors. This bill was created by the administration of the Department of Land and Natural Resources with absolutely no input from any of the Burial Council members, family, or community members. It was presented to the Oahu Island Burial Council after it had been drafted by Pua Aiu of the State Historic Preservation Department and submitted for review and approval through the administration of the Department of Land and Natural Resources. There was no input from any of the council members or any family members on the creation of this proposal. This is an administrative bill that will have a huge negative impact on our communities and families. This bill was created to address the quorum issues that some of the burial councils are having. If one of the main reasons for this bill is because of the absence of large landowner participation, that responsibility should be on the landowner, not on the council itself. If there is a lack of landowner participation, the burial council should maintain the right to meet every month with or without the landowner present. The landowner wants to have a voice in the decision-making process. It is their responsibility to be present and accounted for in these meetings. This bill also proposes to name the chair of the proposed statewide council with the chair of the DLNR or its designate. This is a conflict of interest, and it eliminates the ability of the council to elect its own leadership from its peers. This bill will effectively eliminate the ability of concerned family members from participating in a process of having their voices heard regarding concerns about their iwi kupuna on their own island and in their own moku. The Island Burial Councils are currently the one and only place families can officially express their concerns at the state level. The cost to travel to neighbor islands is prohibitive for most families, and they cannot afford to pay this expense each month. I personally have attended every meeting on Oahu in the past year, but I am sure I would not have been able to afford the price of a round-trip ticket if I were required to travel to the neighbor island to have my concerns heard. And I absolutely have to say that if it wasn't for the presence of the Oahu Island Burial Council on my own island,
and being able to come and voice my concerns about my kupuna, who have been trying the hardest for the last year to make sure it doesn't get dug up. That was the only place I could come. The only place I could come and be heard. And I was heard, and I was listened to, and I actually was able to get the Borough Council to take some direct action on behalf of my kupuna. And I'm hoping it's going to make a difference. This proposed bill will add to the full agendas of each island council. All Island Borough Council meeting agendas are always full, and they sometimes meet for 5 to 6 hours to address each of their full agenda. How is a statewide Borough Council expected to meet the challenge of hearing and addressing issues on every island in one monthly meeting? It would be impossible to do. Currently, there are representatives from each moku on each island. This bill proposes to select only 2 members from each island. This is not an efficient way to address all the concerns our iwi kupuna face in their respective moku. This also eliminates home rule. There is no way families will have their voices heard in an effort to protect iwi kupuna if this bill is allowed to pass in its current form. This bill will cost the taxpayers $60,000 more than it does now. With the fiscal challenges the state of Hawaii currently faces, it makes no sense to allocate $60,000 from a government budget that needs to save money. This bill is fiscally irresponsible and counterproductive to the ability of meeting the needs of family members, the community, and large landowners. As someone who has been able to attend meetings at the Oahu Island Borough Council meetings as a venue to express my concerns for my own kupuna, I ask that you reject SB 2854. The main issue is the inability for councils to meet quorum because of the absence of the landowner. The only change in the law needed is to allow the individual Island Borough Council meetings to be held with or without the landowner. I am certain if this change is implemented, large owners will be present and accounted for at every meeting, just as the volunteer moku representatives currently are. This one small change will save the state of Hawaii $60,000 of taxpayer monies and allow the individual Island Borough Councils to perform their duties as needed. I oppose SB 2854 and ask that you reject this bill as being inefficient, unnecessary, and costly. And thank you for your time. And I would just like to add that I deeply appreciate the fact that we have volunteers that come to these meetings every month and they hear heart-wrenching testimony from family members that come. And if I'm asked to talk to a teleprompter so that somebody on another island can hear what I'm saying about my kupuna, that's not going to work for me. I need to look people in the eye, and they need to look me in the eye, and they need to know that I'm real, my kupuna are real, and we need help. Our kupuna are under assault everywhere. They cannot be sacrificed anymore. And I need to look people in the eye, and I need them to know how I feel. So I ask that you reconsider, you look at this bill carefully, and you reject it. There are better ways to address this issue than a statewide Island Burial Council. Mahalo.
Terry Napiahi, Pele Defense Fund.
Aloha mai. My name is Terry Napiahi. I flew over this morning from Moku Keawe. And I'm here to represent the Pele Defense Fund. I'm the Vice President for Pele Defense, and I'm honored to be here in front of all of you to speak in behalf of our iwi kupuna. I oppose the bill and have a few suggestions and resolutions as to how you can help with our iwi kupuna. I am a voice for our iwi kupuna on our big island. And I've had the opportunity of having years in researching as to how all these years our iwi kupuna have been able to be dug up continuously. I remember, and I had been watched videos from the time that Honokohua on Maui started all of this. And I'm here to address ideas as to how we can take care of this issue. And I would like to reference a bill that is, I think, active and maybe sitting on this shelf right now because of financing. And that would be bill, and that was submitted last year, January 2011, SB numbers 1071. And all we would like you to do is to, like it says here, to transfer it over or to move it over and to bring it active to all your solutions. But do this for us, and that is when it says here, the membership of each council shall include at least one representative from each geographic region. It says here to the island to have as well a representative of a development and a large property owner interest. We would like you to not have that. And to make this also, the regional representative shall be selected from the Hawaiian community of the basis of their understanding of the traditions. I'm here to represent our cultural traditions and customary practices as a religion. Our iwi kupuna was put into our ground in religious practice. Every kupuna that is put into a ground has a blessing that it will never be touched and never moved. When you have a treatment plan, that means you already decided what to do with our iwi. You've already decided to move the iwi. It's too late. A treatment plan does not give our iwi kupuna the chance to voice where they need to be. It is too late to have a treatment plan for a kupuna. How can our iwi kupuna voice who we are and say anything about that? I mean, we are here to talk for our kupuna that are being moved. You have a treatment plan, it's too late. They don't have a voice. What I'd like to ask you to do is to leave this koko. It is our iwi that you move. Why do you allow the landowners to make that decision to move our iwi? They have no interest. They're moving our iwi. They are developers. They've already decided to build over our iwi. They are outnumbered already. You amend the ratio? You should amend the ratio by not having them on making our decisions. Our iwi kupuna cannot speak for themselves. We are here as kanaka mauoli, keeping our tutus where they belong. Treatment plan, too late. They have already decided to move them. Developers already have the idea to build. They don't care. They're going to move them. I ask you, as a representative of our iwi kupuna and the Vice President of Pele Defense Fund, to think about this. Move this over, take the developers off this bill, and let our people discuss what to do with our family. I hope when my tutu passes away, nobody move them. That is desecration. That is desecration of my tutu and my family. I beg you to move what was already active. Use that and ask our people. You get problems with quorum. Who's the checks and balances to check this? Yeah, who is doing the checks and balances? It's not our tutu's fault. You guys cannot make quorum. Go find somebody else. Get plenty. Nobody would ask me. I'm 50 years old. Nobody asked me to be on the burial council. So I can make quorum for you. Bring this bill back, SB. There's a companion bill in the House. The companion bill is HB 155 HD1. Carry it over. It's sitting in finance, probably. Thank you very much. Mahalo nui.
And Terry, if you could submit written testimony when you do
I will.
have a chance.
I never have time.
Okay, mahalo. Okay, and finally, Jean Razor, Kahuo Kahiko.
Yeah, this is contemporaneous, very short, because the majority of the people, I made a bunch of phone calls last night when I found out about the bill. And some of them, well, there were a bunch of them that would like to be here and you would like to have heard their testimony because they do count. But very simply, with all the technical parts of the Burial Council and stuff, fine, because I know Kai and I rode the first flight in the morning to Mokuokeawe for the Hawaii Island Burial Council for many years, right? And we came home on the last flight, and sometimes we didn't even make it. But bottom line is, we have two things, and we have more, but these two things are spiritual ties. The Aina and the Iwi, which are actually the same thing. The Aina does not live without our kupuna's Iwi there, and it's our job to protect them. The burial councils are doing the best job they can, but every single mokupuni is different. Every ahupua'a on that mokupuni is different. Every family's burial practices are different. Ali'i and maka'ainana burials are different. So that's bad enough even with the burial councils, but at least you've got representation from the different districts on each mokupuni. But if you lump it all into one, now we're saying that, oh, everybody is the same. It doesn't matter. That in itself is an insult to all of our ancestors. Every single one of them, but not giving them at least the benefit of having representation from somebody that's close. You may not have all the families, but at least you'll have the district that they came from. That's at this point in time is the best thing you can have. But with a one-size-fits-all, now does everybody in here, we go have one set of slippers and you're all going to swap them around all the time? That doesn't work. So if your culture means something to you, why can't you apply that much? And that's what this bill is trying to do, is to take away our right to at least protect our kupuna, at least with protocols and mana and mana'o from our own people that represent them. That's all. Mahalo.
Gene, for the benefit of our deliberations when we're done, could you please submit some testimony, because we're going to go into some type of discussion.
Okay.
Okay.
Pono's taping it, but I will.
Can you do that? Okay, mahalo.
Yeah.
Would anybody else want to testify?
Yes.
Yes, please. If you could state your name and your position on SB 2854, please.
My name is Pono Kealoha. You guys are continuing genocide. You've been notified. I'm still here as a Hawaiian national saying that you're at war with my sovereign neutral nation. And whether you like it or not, everything that you're promoting here is not for my benefit or for my children's benefit. Please, look at the person inside yourself, man. Talk to them. Because you got a bunch of hitchhikers. And you're on the burial council over at the church, digging up for what? A media center. Come on, man, let's get real. What kind of circus is this? Mahalo.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Kalama, you called my name earlier, but I'm not ma'a to the process.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your name is?
Aloha. Aloha, no. My name is Malia Kapua Onalani Evans.
Oh, okay.
And you do have my written testimony. I'm a Hawaiian anthropologist with a specialty in Hawaiian applied archaeology and historic preservation. And I am here on behalf of my kupuna, whose iwi are buried all over our Hawaii. And I came here from Wailua to testify on their behalf. And one of the things, one of the justifications for this SB 2854 is because of the quorum issues. But if you look at the landowners and developers, they have multiple resources. They have huge financial resources, and there's no reason they cannot be at these meetings. Let's not be deceived by these large landowners who have abundant resources, because they are in essence holding our island burial councils in a hostage situation. And they should be held accountable by our public officials and our community for delaying and circumventing the law. The second justification for consolidation of the island burial councils is the inability of the IBC to conduct statewide meetings. I know there's some pilikia about using video conferencing, but that's an option. There are solutions that we think outside the box. The $5,000, which is $60,000 a year, that it's going to cost to implement this, can be used for that. You know, you can do video conferencing. There's Skype, there's WebEx, there's wonderful platforms in order to do that. And it's not for us that we would have to testify, but just for the burial councils to kuka with each other. So there are solutions. If you allow this bill to become law, you will also be subjecting a multitude of lineal and cultural descendants to incredible financial hardship. We know how much it costs to fly inter-island. You've got your car, you got your place to stay, you got your meals. You know, these are real hardships for a lot of our families. Hawaiian households, 62% of them make less than $50,000 a year, versus 37.9 households who are non-Hawaiian. So there's a big issue here regards financial resources. Our first line of defense in identifying, protecting, and preserving our na'iwi kupuna are those who have specialized knowledge of places, events, practices, and burials in their own community. These cultural and lineal descendants are the essential link between those who have passed and those who remain here. The people whose culture it is, whose ancestors will be impacted, need to make the decisions and recommendations about what happens to them and their associated sacred burial places. Let us not forget our history. Why were the island burial councils created in the first place? What was the intent? Was that so we would have the ability to make those decisions. So let's not forget Honokahua. Let's not forget Naue. Let's not forget Hokuli'a, Kaka'ako, and Mokapu, where thousands of our kupuna have been unearthed. They have been victimized, traumatized, and sacrificed on the altar of corporate and development greed. And I would just like to share a quote with you that I found on the State Historic Preservation Division. This quote is by Papa Henry Away. And he said, "I would recommend and plead with you, with all the people now, to respect your kupuna, regardless if they're Hawaiian, Japanese, all the different nationalities. You don't give up your family. Don't sell your family short in life. Give them the best, even when they die." Mahalo.
You submitted your testimony,
I did,
Julia?
yes.
Okay. Anybody else want to submit testimony or come up and say anything?
Hello, my Chair.
Yes, sir.
Just one point that I did not mention in my testimony earlier. As I was contacted by one of the representatives of, most of you might be familiar with Ili'o'ula Okalani Coalition. They've been quiet and they've not been out on the forefront for quite some time, but they're very well aware of this, and they too also stand along with us, Oahu, Maui, Hawaii Island Burial Councils in opposition to this bill. And again, we are looking forward to being able to work together to come up with a better solution.
Okay.
Sure, one thing, 30 seconds.
Yes,
Less
Mike.
than 30 seconds.
Okay.
15 seconds.
All right.
Committee, one thing that you have to look at is in the Hokulia settlement. Part of the settlement was $2 million for SHPD for archaeologists. Okay, they went default, but no one has, from this department, exercised, give us the $2 million. We need the $2 million. We need it. So why do we have attorney generals who are being paid to do nothing when all they have to do is drop papers, because they're getting paid anyway, to exercise getting the $2 million in the Hokule'a agreement for the archaeologists for SHPD, please.
Okay. All right. Dante, you want to say a few words?
Chair Galataria, Vice Chair Ryan, Member Kaele and Kidani. I would be remiss, I think, as Democratic Party Chairperson, at least rise to speak for the Kupuna Caucus representative as well as the Hawaiian Caucus representatives, two of the units within the Democratic Party. I've heard the term Oahu-centric, and this appears to be going in that particular way towards centralizing an activity on Oahu, with this being the focal point by virtue of the population being in excess of 1 million versus all the others combined. On the other hand, we certainly have an island community which, as we all know, is unique and different from any other state in the entire United States of America, albeit the world. And we have a heritage and culture that has been respected over many, many, many years. And I guess I hear the cry and hue for continuing that respect. And so I think that's the gist of what I'd like to request this committee to do. While the idea of going with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs may seem like an alternative, there is no authority granted, even though it is a state agency per se, but it has no authority, certainly none in the capacity of the governance of the state of Hawaii as the Department of Land and Natural Resources. While it may be a pain in the butt for them in terms of perfunctory services in their perspective as compared to perhaps others, the practical fact is this is an essential part of living and being and being a part of Hawaii. And I think we'd be remiss to pass this bill in its present form. I think the suggestions as coming forth from this group of individuals here are good, are real, and certainly bear evaluation. That there is a genesis for these bodies to have been formed in the first place. That mission certainly ought to continue to be respected, and to the extent that the rules and regulations relating to performance and evaluation need to be perhaps re-looked at. They should be reinforced to the extent they can, and honor and distinction being granted those individuals who serve in those very, very unusual but necessary capacities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dante. And Dante, if you could, you're incredibly eloquent, if you could just do testimony in the same way, that would be greatly appreciated.
I'll put it in right.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Appreciate that. Anybody else? No? Members, any questions for any of our testifiers? No? Okay.
Well, I have one question.
Yes, Vice Chair.
For Dr. Cole. Is there a different way through administrative rules to, for lack of a better word, force participation? Like I know on other commissions, if you miss 2 meetings, it's not. So, and I like what the Kahu said, that if they are offered participation and don't show up, they've been given the opportunity. And it's been also said by, I'm sorry, what was your name? The archaeologist. Malia. That they have, the large landowners actually and developers have the resources to send somebody.
Well, to answer the question, we can look at it, but in looking at the statute, and as I know you're aware, the rule can't do something that the statute doesn't allow for, and it appears in the reading of the statute that their participation is necessary in order for quorum to be met. And so that's not something that we could change by rule.
I see, it would have to be by statute.
That's the way it appears.
Okay, I sent a quick email out to the families that are involved with repatriation in Kainoa, of course, with building going on in the area. And so far the response has been they do not support it. I did have one response where they might think it's a good idea, but it always comes back to the same reason why they're cautious. Because of the loss of home rule and control of their own area. Because every area is different. Obviously, Oahu is much more dense, has had development much longer than the neighbor islands. So I do believe that they do handle it differently. But that is still their concern, that each ahapua'a should be able to handle the repatriation of iwi kupuna in the way they feel appropriate, and not have another body from another island telling them what to do. The other concern I have is this creating another layer that delays process again, or decision making? That, I think, is, are we creating something worse?
Well, of course, our intention is no, we're not. I mean, we already have a delayed process. I appreciate all the comments that were shared in Mano, that were shared this afternoon, because I think it's heartfelt. I know it's heartfelt. But the bottom line at this point in time is that the law, as stated and as we apply it, has really significantly prevented the councils from meeting for a variety of different reasons. But the bottom line is they haven't met, as I indicated in the memo I shared with the committee. And that's what has to be addressed. So with respect to everything that's been said, that has to be corrected. And we believe this is one means in which it could be corrected. But then again, I'll say this is one means. So anything that allows the councils to meet on a routine basis, we will support.
Because another part of this that really hasn't been addressed today is Shipti's role. I'm quite concerned about the internal policy they have that all of Kailua is considered high risk for bone discovery. I think that's actually a lazy way to manage, personally, because the process should be upon discovery, not you will discover anyway, so you think you should spend whatever resources to do it. And that is why in Kailua they've developed a very credible process with 5 family members from the area and involving kupuna, and they have created a process that has a lot of credibility in the ahapua'a. And that's why I think having that control within your own island or ahapua'a is very significant.
Well, I appreciate it. Excuse me, I appreciate that, Kalamai, and I agree. But I wouldn't want to let, from the standpoint of the department, I wouldn't want to let that requirement get in the way of actually having councils do the work, the important work that they have to do. And when they can't meet, our iwi kupuna are at risk, and we have to change that.
Paul?
Yeah, all of that will be considered.
Okay. Senator Kidani?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Deputy Code, for being here. You know, you provided us an additional memo with a list of all the dates where quorum was not met. But what's important, I believe, for this committee to know is why was there not quorum? Was it the landowner, or was it, the community members? Number one. Number two, without changing the makeup of the burial councils on each individual island, I think probably the best way and the quickest way to get quorum is to change the rules that quorum of those present can, you can have the meeting and decided by quorum of those present. And I'll guarantee you, landowners and everybody will do that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Taylor?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all of you for those that provided testimony, written and testified here today. I appreciate that. The issue for me was one, up to now, was one that about the department and the Burial Council not being able to make quorum. So all of the testimony provided today has been, for me, very enlightening to look at the issue. Deputy, I wonder if you can answer a couple of questions for me and refresh my memory. There are many boards and commissions, and within the department. Naala Hilly is one of them, Trails Council, and it's an advisory council to the board. The Department of Land Natural Resources, the underground board, makes the ultimate decision based on, I guess, opinion or advice from the advisory council. Regarding the burial council, and it's governed by statutes, they're not in an advisory council, is it? Is it an advisory council to the board, or could you refresh my memory on that?
The burial council is not an advisory council, it's the land board.
Yeah. So when the burial councils have that review of the EV, the Kupuna EV, it's very critical, and decisions that they make are very important. And I can see too where if the quorum, they cannot have a quorum, and if it's intentionally done, I've heard that, prior to the meeting. Maybe that's one tack that's taken, and maybe that ultimate responsibility goes to the landowner for whatever reason. Yeah. I guess to remove the landowners from the Island Burial Council, ultimately it goes back to the AG to determine. And I guess, what did you just mention that wouldn't be possible?
Oh no, I'm not saying it wouldn't be possible. I'm saying our read on the statute makes it appear as that ratio must be maintained in order for the council to meet. I believe that's over the years, or at least the recent years, been the interpretation, and it's been one of the reasons that the council hasn't met. But in terms of an amendment to the statute that might change the ratio or change the makeup, that would be possible as legislation, or change the requirement for quorum.
I see. And by passing this bill forward, it would be a fiscal increase, as it's pointed out in some of the testimony. It would increase the amount of the monies to the state.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mahalo nui. Anybody else? Any more questions? Thank you. Thank you, Deputy. Kai, I inadvertently cut you off. Would you like to come and share more mana'o at all? Or was the testimony? That was, kalamayo.
Thank you.
Yeah? Okay. Listen, going forward, there's much more discussion that I think we need to engage in. There has been some great suggestions that perhaps we can use as we go forward. And so what I'd like to do, what the chair would like to do, is to, we're going to adjourn today, and then be contacting members of this particular, those of you who've come here. I'd like for us to go over the testimony again. There seems to be some places for movement in this. And then please avail yourself of perhaps a call from our office to talk some more story. Okay? I'm not deferring this yet. We're just going to we're going to adjourn the meeting and move forward. Guy, you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you for the opportunity to add the comment. I just wanted to let you know that the department has been in discussion with HINA to meet with the chairs and vice chairs of the burial councils. And as she indicated, that's something that wasn't able to happen prior to this session. But
okay, so you're suggesting that perhaps if we keep this open, there could be something that could come to the table?
Yeah, I believe so. So I appreciate that opportunity, give us a chance to work and to meet.
Okay, so why don't we do that? Mike, anything final?
Yeah, really final. This is a final. Just in case, one thing for impetus behind all of this, just in case the federal government's procedure and they cut off the 50% funds to Shifty, which is always the wall that's used, we don't have money, we don't have staff, and nothing gets done. And that's one way to delay the rights of our practitioners and our people to get things, and even business, to continue and develop. Because we can do both. We just have to be Pono. But we've got to see that $2 million of Hokulia is standing there for the Attorney General to tap under the agreement. Whoever gets that thing, we need that money. It was part of the settlement. And how can you just turn away $2 million when we may lose $500,000 from the federal government's funding? Thank you.
I recall you saying that the last time you were up here, just moments ago.
Yeah, I know. But just a little impetus. Yeah.
Okay, very good. One last, okay,
We do have, and our OHA representatives here, they did confirm that we are waiting to hear on the date, February 24th, where thanks to the assistance of OHA, we would like to convene our chairs, our IBC chairs and vice chairs, or their selected representatives. We will be sitting down a minimum of our leadership. OHA, are you down for the meeting? And if we can pull them in as well, may we make contact with you to see if there is someone from this committee that would be able to attend.
Yeah, sure. Let us know. Well, what we're looking for is advancing the notion of a solution.
Yeah.
Yes.
And today was, in fact, I mean, I find today it would have been such a stretch to try and find an answer. Today we came to the table to kuka and go forward. Okay.
Mahalo.
Okay, mahalo.
So,
Now,
Mr. Chair,
yes,
can
Senator
we
Kidani?
request that DLNR provide us the information I requested?
Yep, go ahead.
Why exactly they're not?
Yeah, why there was no quorum, who was missing?
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, and I'd like to end on a point of personal privilege, because there are origins to why this has been done today. And indeed, in the interest of full disclosure, I am a member of Kauai Hau Church. And I make no apologies for that. I am a faith-based man. I'm perfect imperfection. And we don't do everything right. But one of the reasons we're here today, I will say that the authority that this particular committee has does not look at the jurisdiction over Kauai Hau Church. That is with the Department of Health. And unfortunately, or fortunately for me, we cannot render opinions in that regard. But we can render opinions towards a solution of how we can work together. We owe it to our iwi kupuna to revisit these processes constantly, because we evolve as we go. We grow as we go. So with that, I want to end today's hearing, and we'll be coming back. We'll look forward to what you folks have to say the next time around. We don't know when that date is going to be, but with that in mind, members, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Khalil.
You didn't ask me to send in my testimony.
Hey, send it in. I thought you did.
No.
Send that in.
No, but it's, I'm going to